The year is 1936. The sun beats down mercilessly on the arid plains of Ras Shamra, a desolate landscape concealing the ancient city of Ugarit. For decades, archaeologists had meticulously peeled back layers of dust and time here, uncovering a vibrant Bronze Age metropolis, a hub of trade and culture whose very existence had been forgotten for millennia. This particular dig, led by a joint French-American expedition, was routine, a careful expansion into a previously unexcavated sector. Days bled into weeks, marked by the rhythmic scrape of trowels and the sifting of endless earth, each grain a silent witness to a past humanity struggled to fully comprehend. The air hung heavy with the scent of dry soil and the quiet ambition of discovery. Yet no one was prepared for what lay beneath the unassuming surface. It was a Tuesday. Late afternoon, when a young Syrian foreman, clearing a particularly stubborn patch of compacted clay, felt his shovel strike something unyielding, something that vibrated with an echo not of rock, but of an unknown silence. This was no ordinary pottery shard. This was a signal from a deeper, more profound antiquity. With practiced hands, the team worked, their movements precise, almost reverent. What emerged from the earth was a small, crudely fashioned clay jar, sealed. Inside, nestled amongst centuries of sediment, lay not gold or jewels, but a collection of cuneiform tablets, each no larger than a man's palm. Their surfaces, etched with the familiar wedge-shaped script of the Near East, immediately ignited a spark of excitement. But a closer inspection revealed a perplexing detail. The language, while structurally similar to Ugaritic, contained glyphs and grammatical constructs that defied immediate classification. These weren't standard administrative records or epic poems. They appeared to be fragmented narratives, interspersed with cosmological diagrams and references to beings of immense stature and unusual lineage. The lead epigrapher, Dr. Evelyn Reed, her brow furrowed in concentration, recognized the profound anomaly. These tablets spoke of a time predating known Ugaritic history, hinting at a presence that orthodox archaeology had never dared to contemplate. A historical echo, strangely resonant with ancient texts long dismissed as mere mythology. The discovery of the tablets alone would have been monumental, rewriting chapters of regional history. But the earth, it seemed, had more secrets to yield. Just meters from the tablet cache, as the team carefully expanded their trench, the ground gave way to an entirely different, chilling revelation. Beneath a layer of undisturbed bedrock, an astonishingly preserved skeletal structure began to emerge. It wasn't human in the way they understood it. The sheer scale was breathtaking. A femur alone was nearly a meter long, indicating a creature of immense height, far exceeding any known hominid or even the tallest recorded human. Its proportions, while broadly humanoid, possessed subtle yet significant divergences. A thicker bone density, a more pronounced brow ridge, and cranial sutures that suggested an unusual growth pattern. The atmosphere on the dig site shifted from academic excitement to profound, almost fearful awe. This wasn't a dinosaur. This was something that challenged the very framework of human evolution, a silent, stony testament to a being that should, by all accounts, not exist. The implications were immediate and terrifyingly clear. What the Ugarit expedition had unearthed was not just an archaeological find, it was a paradox, frozen in time. The tablets, with their cryptic narratives of ancient, powerful beings, suddenly seemed to offer a context, however unsettling, to the colossal bones lying exposed to the desert air. Scientific protocol, though meticulously followed, struggled to contain the sheer paradigm-shifting nature of the discovery. Initial reports were cautious, almost evasive, as the team grappled with evidence that contradicted generations of established anthropological and historical understanding. How could such a creature exist? And why had no trace of its kind ever been conclusively found before? More importantly, if these tablets and this skeletal anomaly were genuine, what did they tell us about the true origins of humanity? And what other truths, meticulously buried and deliberately forgotten, might still lie hidden beneath the dust of our accepted past, waiting to redefine everything we thought we knew about the dawn of civilization? To understand the profound implications of the Ugarit discovery, we must first reconstruct the vibrant, volatile world in which these enigmatic tablets and colossal bones once existed, the Bronze Age. Near East, spanning roughly 3300 to 1200 BCE, was a crucible of nascent civilizations and shifting empires. Ugarit itself, strategically positioned on the Mediterranean coast, was a dazzling mosaic of cultures, a Canaanite city-state, yet profoundly influenced by its powerful neighbors. The mighty Hittite Empire to the north, the sophisticated New Kingdom of Egypt to the south, and the complex Mesopotamian kingdoms of Mitanni and Assyria to the east. It was a nexus of trade routes, a marketplace of ideas, goods, and gods, where scribes translated texts in multiple languages and merchants exchanged wares from across the known world. This cosmopolitan environment fostered an astonishing intellectual curiosity, but also a fierce competition for dominance, where knowledge, faith, and political power were inextricably intertwined. In this intricate tapestry, religion was not merely a belief system. It was the very bedrock of society, dictating kingship, law, and the cosmic order. The people of Ugarit worshipped a rich pantheon of Canaanite deities, chief among them El, the creator god, and Baal, the storm god, whose epic struggles and triumphs were recounted in meticulously preserved myths. These narratives, etched onto clay tablets similar in form to those unearthed in 1936, provided a framework for understanding the world, explaining natural phenomena, and legitimizing the ruling class, who often claimed divine lineage. Yet, within this established order, whispers and references to beings beyond the accepted divine hierarchy persisted. These were the primordial entities, the ancient ones, whose existence predated the familiar gods, often described with awe-inspiring power and sometimes unsettling physical attributes. Across the vast expanse of the ancient world, from the earliest Sumerian city-states to the burgeoning empires of the Nile, similar echoes reverberated. Mesopotamian texts spoke of the Apkallu, wise antediluvian sages, sometimes depicted as part fish, part human, who brought knowledge to mankind. Egyptian mythology referenced the Neteru, primordial beings who walked the earth before the pharaohs, possessing immense power and sometimes described as colossal. Even the earliest Greek myths recounted the Titans, beings of immense stature and strength who preceded the Olympian gods. These weren't always worshipped in the same way as the dominant pantheon. They often represented a wilder, more chaotic, or simply older phase of existence. But it is in the Hebrew Scriptures, in the enigmatic lines of Genesis 6, that the concept of giants in the earth, the Nephilim, takes on a particularly provocative dimension, hinting at a truth deliberately obscured. The control of narrative in the ancient world was a potent weapon, wielded by kings and priests alike. To maintain societal order and political stability, certain stories were elevated, canonized, and meticulously copied, while others were marginalized, altered, or even actively suppressed. A consistent creation myth, a clear lineage of gods, and a divine mandate for the ruling monarch were essential tools for governance. Any narrative that challenged this carefully constructed framework, one that hinted at a different, more complex origin for humanity, or the existence of beings outside the established divine hierarchy, posed a direct threat. Such knowledge could sow dissent, undermine authority, and destabilize the very foundations of faith and power, turning philosophical inquiry into a dangerous act of rebellion. This inherent tension between accepted truth and inconvenient reality explains why certain texts, like those found at Ugarit, might have been deliberately silenced or relegated to the fringes of accepted knowledge. Imagine the profound theological and political upheaval if it were widely acknowledged that colossal, non-human, yet humanoid beings once walked the earth, possibly interacting with early humanity as suggested by the Ugarit tablets and skeletal remains. Such a revelation would force a complete reevaluation of divine creation, the unique status of humanity, and the very narratives that underpinned every major civilization. It would challenge the authority of priests who interpreted the will of the gods and kings who claimed descent from them. The easiest path, the safest path for those in power, was to ensure such stories remained confined to obscure fragments, dismissed as mere myth, or simply buried and forgotten. Fast forward to 1936, and the discovery at Ras Shamra thrusts this ancient conflict into the modern era. Dr. Evelyn Reed and her team, products of Western scientific enlightenment, were confronted with evidence that not only contradicted orthodox archaeology, but also clashed violently with deeply ingrained Judeo-Christian interpretations of human origins. The initial reaction was not one of immediate public declaration, but of intense scrutiny, internal debate, and crucially, a palpable sense of apprehension. The tablet's cryptic narratives and the undeniable physicality of the colossal skeleton presented an immediate dilemma. How do you report something that fundamentally shatters decades, even centuries, of established scientific and religious understanding without causing widespread societal shock or academic ridicule? The collision of knowledge, faith, and politics in the 20th century was no less potent than in the Bronze Age. The French-American expedition operated under the watchful eyes of colonial administrations, academic institutions, and nascent religious advocacy groups. Each had a vested interest in how history was written and interpreted. For the scientific community, the evidence demanded rigorous verification, but also threatened careers and reputations built on established paradigms. For religious institutions, particularly those with a literal interpretation of Scripture, the discovery was an existential challenge. And for the colonial powers, managing such a potentially explosive find in a politically sensitive region like the Levant was a delicate balancing act, where the pursuit of truth could easily be overshadowed by the desire for control and stability. It was within this complex web of ancient echoes and modern anxieties that the fate of the Ugarit discovery hung precariously. The individuals on that dig, particularly Dr. Reed, became reluctant custodians of a truth too immense for their time. They were the inheritors of the scribes who recorded these narratives, and perhaps the victims of the same forces that sought to silence them millennia ago. What meticulous documentation could they undertake in secret? Which influential figures within academia or government would they turn to? And how would the profound implications of these findings, speaking of an ancient past deliberately obscured, be navigated in a world ill-prepared to accept the existence of giants in the earth, not as myth, but as undeniable empirical fact? The real story, it seemed, was only just beginning to emerge from the shadows. Dr. Evelyn Reed, a woman of formidable intellect and unwavering scientific integrity, found herself at the epicenter of a revelation that would test the very foundations of her world. The initial weeks following the discovery were a blur of intense, secretive analysis. The cuneiform tablets, meticulously cleaned and painstakingly deciphered by Reed and her most trusted epigraphers, began to yield their extraordinary secrets. They weren't merely myths. They were fragmented, yet remarkably consistent historical records. These texts, written in an archaic Proto-Ugaritic dialect, spoke not of gods in the traditional sense, but of the progenitors, the skywalkers, or simply the ancients, beings of immense physical stature and profound wisdom who arrived from beyond the known horizons. Their narratives described a time when these entities walked among early humanity, imparting knowledge of agriculture, astronomy, and societal organization, yet always maintaining a subtle, unnerving distance, their presence shaping the very genesis of civilization in ways orthodox history had never dared to imagine. The tablets painted a vivid, if terrifying, picture. These ancients were depicted as creators and instructors, but also as beings whose interactions with nascent human tribes were not always benevolent. Some fragments described a symbiotic relationship. Others hinted at a more hierarchical, even paternalistic dominion. Crucially, the text detailed their physical attributes with chilling precision: towering forms, eyes that held the wisdom of ages, and an almost preternatural strength. These descriptions, eerily specific, mirrored the colossal skeletal remains unearthed just meters away. The anatomical studies performed on the bones, conducted in guarded secrecy, confirmed the tablets' accounts. An advanced non-hominid species, possessed of a biological structure that defied every known branch of terrestrial evolution. The evidence was irrefutable, yet utterly devastating to the accepted timeline of human development. The scientific implications alone were staggering. The skeletal structure, with its unique bone density and cranial formation, suggested a creature capable of withstanding pressures and environmental conditions far beyond human endurance. Its immense size was not a deformity, but an inherent characteristic of its species. This wasn't a missing link in human evolution. It was an entirely separate, parallel branch, one that intersected with early humanity in a way that shattered Darwinian linearity. Dr. Reed's team grappled with the cognitive dissonance. How could such a highly evolved, seemingly intelligent species exist in the fossil record without any prior trace, only to appear, fully formed, at the very dawn of human civilization? The answer, whispered in the hushed halls of their makeshift lab, was that their existence had been deliberately, meticulously erased. But the academic challenge paled in comparison to the theological earthquake these findings represented. The Ugarit tablets, speaking of the progenitors and their interaction with early humans, provided a chillingly literal context for the enigmatic verses of Genesis 6, where giants were in the earth in those days. The biblical sons of God, who took daughters of men, suddenly shed their metaphorical shroud, hinting at a very real, very physical intermingling. This wasn't allegory. It was an ancient historical record, corroborated by undeniable physical evidence. For institutions built upon the literal interpretation of Scripture, or even those that embraced more symbolic readings, the Ugarit discovery was an existential threat. It implied a co-creation, a shared ancestry, or perhaps a dominion that fundamentally challenged humanity's unique divine favor and its singular place in the cosmic order. The decision to suppress this monumental discovery was not a single dramatic decree, but a series of calculated maneuvers, born of fear and a profound desire to maintain control. Initial reports from Ugarit were carefully edited, the colossal bones reclassified as an unusual hominid variant, a term vague enough to satisfy academic curiosity without inviting deeper scrutiny. The tablets, initially hailed as a new cache of Ugaritic literature, were quickly deemed fragmentary mythological texts of little historical significance, their more provocative narratives conveniently omitted from public translation. The inherent danger, as perceived by both secular and religious authorities, was the potential for societal collapse. A truth so radical, so profoundly unsettling, could ignite widespread panic, dismantle established power structures, and shatter the comforting narratives that underpinned Western civilization. Within the academic community, the suppression took a more insidious form. Dr. Reed, a woman of immense talent, found her career effectively stalled, her research grants mysteriously drying up. Colleagues who dared to support her inquiries faced similar professional ostracism, their reputations tarnished, their work relegated to obscurity. The established archaeological and anthropological paradigms, painstakingly constructed over centuries, were not easily challenged. To acknowledge the Ugarit findings in their full, terrifying scope would mean admitting that entire fields of study were fundamentally flawed, that generations of scholarship had overlooked or deliberately ignored a colossal piece of humanity's past. The path of least resistance, and indeed the path of self-preservation for countless academics, was to dismiss, to discredit, and ultimately to forget. For the dominant religious institutions of the era, the Ugarit discovery represented an immediate and profound theological crisis. The concept of the progenitors directly challenged the accepted creation narrative, implying a more complex, perhaps less divine, origin for humanity. If these colossal beings were indeed the giants of Genesis, then the sacred texts, previously understood as divinely inspired, now contained a hidden history, a suppressed truth that had been deliberately obscured. This threatened the very authority of religious leaders, who for millennia had been the sole arbiters of divine knowledge. The suppression was swift and uncompromising. The findings were labeled heresy, attributed to misinterpretation or even satanic deception, ensuring that the faithful remained shielded from a truth deemed too dangerous for their spiritual well-being. Beyond academia and religion, geopolitical interests played a crucial role. In the volatile Levant of the 1930s, a region already a tinderbox of colonial ambition and nascent nationalism, the revelation of ancient giants could have catastrophic consequences. Imagine the social unrest, the emergence of new cults, or the weaponization of such a discovery by rival powers. Colonial administrations, keen on maintaining stability and control, saw the Ugarit findings as a dangerous variable, a potential catalyst for chaos that could undermine their authority. The preservation of order, even at the cost of truth, became paramount. The deep-seated human fear of the unknown, of anything that challenges our perceived supremacy, converged with the pragmatic concerns of governance, sealing the fate of the Ugarit revelation in the shadows. The consequence of this concerted suppression was not merely the silencing of a single archaeological find, but the erasure of a lost chapter of human history. For decades, the true implications of Ugarit lay buried, not under layers of earth, but under layers of dogma, fear, and political expediency. Humanity was denied a crucial piece of its own origin story, prevented from grappling with the complex, multifaceted tapestry of its past. What knowledge might have been gained? What understanding of our place in the cosmos might have unfolded had this truth been allowed to emerge? The cost of intellectual censorship, it became clear, was not just ignorance, but the forfeiture of a deeper self-awareness, a more honest reckoning with our own beginnings. Yet truth, like water, finds a way. The very act of suppression, of burying something so immense, often creates the pressure that eventually forces it back to the surface. The Ugarit discovery, though muzzled, left faint but undeniable echoes. Whispers in dusty academic archives, fragments in obscure theological texts, and the enduring power of ancient myths themselves, all kept the flame of this forbidden revelation flickering. Now, in an age of unprecedented access to information and a growing hunger for uncomfortable truths, the shadows of Ugarit begin to recede. We stand at the precipice of a reevaluation, invited to confront a past that was not merely forgotten, but deliberately, meticulously hidden. The question is no longer if. These giants in the earth existed, but what else has been concealed from us, and what that knowledge truly means for the future of humanity? Share this video with someone who you think will enjoy it, like the video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any of our upcoming content. The unearthed secrets of Ugarit force us to confront not just a forgotten past, but a profound reevaluation of humanity's very essence. Morally, the discovery of the progenitors shatters the long-held anthropocentric view that places humankind as the sole, unique intelligent species on Earth. If beings of immense stature and advanced knowledge coexisted with early humanity, guiding their development, then our narrative of self-reliance and singular divine favor crumbles. This revelation demands a humbling reassessment of our place in the cosmic order, challenging the very notion of human exceptionalism that has underpinned Western thought for millennia. As Dr. Anya Sharma, a theoretical anthropologist, postulates, if we were not alone at the genesis of our civilization, if we were mentored or even managed by another species, then our entire moral framework, our ethics of dominion, our concepts of independence must be radically re-examined. It implies a deeper, more complex web of ancient responsibilities and relationships than we've ever dared to acknowledge. The moral weight of this truth is immense, forcing us to ask, what does it mean to be human if we are not, and perhaps never were, the sole architects of our destiny? Spiritually, the impact of the Ugarit findings is nothing short of an earthquake. For centuries, religious texts, particularly the Book of Genesis, have offered a singular, divinely ordained creation narrative. The enigmatic verses of Genesis 6, speaking of giants in the earth and sons of God, intermingling with daughters of men, were largely spiritualized, dismissed as metaphor, or relegated to the realm of mythology to avoid theological dissonance. But the Ugarit tablets, corroborated by the colossal skeletal remains, provide a terrifyingly literal context. If the progenitors were indeed these sons of God, physical beings who interacted with early humanity, then the very nature of divine intervention, of creation, and of humanity's relationship with the sacred is irrevocably altered. This isn't just about challenging literal interpretations. It questions the hierarchical structure of heaven and earth, suggesting a more tangible, perhaps even biological connection between humanity and these powerful ancient entities. The divine, in this new light, becomes far more complex, potentially less ethereal, and unsettlingly intertwined with a forgotten terrestrial history. Historically, the Ugarit discovery demands a wholesale rewriting of our understanding of civilization's dawn. The accepted timeline of human progress, from rudimentary hunter-gatherers to complex urban societies, attributes these advancements solely to human ingenuity and evolutionary pressures. Yet, the tablets speak of the progenitors, imparting knowledge of agriculture, astronomy, and societal structures. This suggests an external catalyst, a guiding hand that accelerated humanity's leap from prehistory to the Bronze Age. Imagine the missing chapters. Entire epochs shaped by the presence of these colossal beings, their influence woven into the very fabric of our earliest societies, architecture, and scientific understanding. Dr. Kenji Tanaka, a renowned historian specializing in ancient civilizations, notes, if we are to accept the Ugarit evidence, then the aha moments of human innovation, the first cities, the first writing, the first understanding of the cosmos, might not have been purely human ingenuity. It forces us to reconsider whether our rise was entirely our own, or if it was a collaborative, albeit asymmetrical endeavor with a species whose existence was later meticulously purged from the historical record. The profound implication is that the suppression of this knowledge was not accidental, but a deliberate act, a global conspiracy of silence spanning millennia. Both ancient priests and modern academics, often for different reasons, found the truth of the progenitors too dangerous, too destabilizing to reveal. For ancient powers, the existence of such beings undermined their claims of divine authority and unique human creation. For modern institutions, it threatened established scientific paradigms and deeply ingrained religious doctrines. This deliberate obfuscation reveals a chilling aspect of human history: the inherent fragility of accepted narratives and the lengths to which power structures will go to maintain control over truth. It underscores the uncomfortable reality that history, as we know it, is often a carefully curated story, designed to serve specific interests rather than a transparent account of what truly transpired. The Ugarit findings are a stark reminder that what is convenient often triumphs over what is true. Connecting the Ugarit revelation across eras and cultures unveils a hidden global pattern. The narratives of colossal wise beings interacting with early humanity are not unique to the Near East. From the Apkallu of Sumerian mythology, depicted as part fish, part human sages bestowing knowledge, to the Jotun of Norse lore, primordial giants who predated the gods, and the various giant traditions found in Native American folklore, the echoes are ubiquitous. Even the megalithic structures found across the globe, whose construction defies conventional Bronze Age engineering, gain a new, unsettling context when viewed through the lens of beings with immense strength and advanced understanding. These ancient parallels, often dismissed as mere fantasy, now appear as fragmented memories, hidden clues embedded in the collective unconscious of humanity, vestiges of a shared, suppressed history that transcend geographical and cultural boundaries, hinting at a period when these progenitors were a global phenomenon, their presence an undeniable force in shaping early human societies. The true meaning of the Ugarit discovery, then, is not merely the existence of an ancient, colossal species, but the profound psychological impact of its deliberate erasure. It challenges our collective memory, forcing us to question the reliability of the very foundations upon which our understanding of reality is built. The human mind, as Dr. Elena Petrova, a cognitive psychologist, explains, craves order and coherence. When a discovery so fundamentally disrupts that order, particularly one that challenges our sense of unique identity, the initial response is often denial, fear, or aggressive dismissal. The suppression of Ugarit wasn't just institutional, it was also internalized, a collective forgetting to preserve a comforting, albeit fabricated, sense of self. This revelation compels us to confront our own capacity for denial, our tendency to prioritize comforting myths over unsettling truths, and the immense psychological barrier that must be overcome to truly integrate such a paradigm-shifting understanding into our worldview. In an age of unprecedented information access, the reemergence of the Ugarit truth carries an even greater significance. The digital era, with its decentralized flow of knowledge and global connectivity, makes the kind of top-down suppression seen in the 20th century increasingly difficult. This growing hunger for unfiltered information, for uncomfortable truths that challenge established narratives, is what allows stories like Ugarit to finally break free from the academic and theological vaults where they were confined. The meaning of this revelation now shifts from a historical secret to a contemporary challenge. How will modern humanity, armed with this profound, unsettling knowledge, integrate it into our science, our spirituality, and our global understanding of history? The Internet, once a tool for disseminating established facts, is fast becoming a medium for unearthing the suppressed, forcing a global reckoning with a past that was not merely forgotten, but deliberately, meticulously hidden from us. Ultimately, the Ugarit discovery compels us to embrace a more nuanced, complex, and potentially humbling view of our origins. It suggests that humanity's journey is not a solitary ascent, but a tapestry woven with threads of external influence, interaction, and perhaps a forgotten lineage. The meaning lies not just in the existence of giants in the earth, but in the profound implications for our future. If we are willing to confront the uncomfortable truths of our past, to question every accepted belief, then the potential for a deeper self-awareness, a more honest reckoning with our place in the universe, becomes boundless. It is an invitation to shed the comforting illusions of exceptionalism and embrace the awe-inspiring, terrifying complexity of our true history. The shadows of Ugarit are receding, and in their place, a new dawn of understanding begins to break. One that promises to redefine everything we thought we knew about the very dawn of civilization, and indeed about ourselves. The Iron Curtain of suppression that descended upon Ugarit in 1936 could not hold forever. In our current era, the digital revolution has shattered the monopolies on information once held by powerful institutions. The Internet, a vast decentralized archive, has become the ultimate truth-teller, allowing marginalized voices and once-buried evidence to resurface and find global resonance. The very fragments Dr. Reed meticulously documented, the whispered accounts of suppressed findings, now find fertile ground in a world increasingly skeptical of official narratives. The Ugarit discovery, once a dangerous anomaly, has transformed into a profound contemporary challenge, forcing us to re-examine not just ancient history, but the mechanisms of control and censorship that have shaped human understanding for millennia. What was once deemed too volatile for public consumption has become a beacon for a new generation, eager to piece together a more honest, if unsettling, mosaic of our origins. This shift is not merely about uncovering old bones and texts. It is about reclaiming our intellectual sovereignty, daring to ask uncomfortable questions, and collectively demanding a complete, unvarnished account of humanity's true genesis. The shadows of Ugarit are receding not because the powerful have relented, but because the light of shared inquiry has become too bright to extinguish. This reemergence of Ugarit's truth compels a profound moral and spiritual reckoning for modern humanity. For centuries, our self-perception has been rooted in a narrative of singular divine creation and unparalleled human exceptionalism, a comforting story of our unique dominion over the earth. But if the progenitors indeed walked among us, guiding our nascent steps, then this anthropocentric framework collapses, demanding a humbling reevaluation of our place in the cosmic hierarchy. Spiritually, the literal interpretation of Genesis 6, once a theological outlier, now gains terrifying empirical weight, forcing every faith tradition to grapple with a past far more complex, potentially less divine, and unsettlingly intertwined with physical, non-human entities. This isn't merely a challenge to dogma. It's an existential invitation to redefine our relationship with the sacred, with creation itself, and with the very concept of humanity. The moral imperative now is to overcome generations of ingrained denial, to confront the psychological discomfort of knowing our origins are not as simple or as solitary as we preferred to believe. It is a call to maturity, to embrace a truth that, while disruptive, promises a deeper, more honest understanding of who we are, where we came from, and what our true responsibilities might be in a universe far grander and more populated than we ever conceived. The enduring power of the Ugarit discovery lies in its testament to the resilience of truth itself. Despite concerted efforts by ancient powers and modern institutions to bury, discredit, and forget, the fragments persisted. Whispers in myth, anomalies in texts, and ultimately the unyielding silence of colossal bones beneath the desert sand. This survival speaks volumes about the inherent human drive for knowledge, the stubborn refusal of certain truths to remain hidden, and the limitations of even the most formidable censorship. Memory, both individual and collective, proves to be a powerful, almost organic force, capable of preserving echoes across millennia, even when official histories seek to erase them. The fact that stories of giants, of skywalkers, and progenitors reverberate across diverse cultures, from Sumerian Apkallu to Norse Jotun, suggests a shared, suppressed memory of a global phenomenon. These aren't just coincidences. They are fractured pieces of a universal narrative, kept alive in the collective unconscious, waiting for empirical evidence like Ugarit's to recontextualize them. The legacy of Ugarit is thus a powerful affirmation that what is true, what genuinely occurred, often finds a way to resurface, challenging us to listen to the whispers of the past, even when they contradict our most cherished beliefs. As the dust settles on the revelations from Ugarit, a profound question hangs in the air. If such a monumental truth about our origins could be so meticulously hidden for millennia, what else remains buried beneath the strata of accepted history? This discovery is not an endpoint, but an invitation, a call to relentless inquiry, to look beyond the curated narratives, and to challenge every premise we hold dear about humanity's journey. It compels us to view every ancient text, every unexplained megalith, every persistent myth, not as mere fantasy, but as potential fragments of a suppressed reality. The implications for our future are immense. A revised understanding of our past might unlock new scientific paradigms, reshape our spiritual frameworks, and fundamentally alter our perception of our place in the cosmos. If we truly embrace this more complex, humbling vision of our beginnings, we open ourselves to an awe-inspiring, terrifying potential, a future where the boundaries of what we thought possible are shattered, and the true, multifaceted tapestry of existence begins to unfold. Ugarit is a silent, stony testament to a hidden past, urging us to question, to seek, and to prepare for the astonishing truths that still lie waiting beneath the surface of our accepted world. Share this video with someone who you think will enjoy it, like the video, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss any of our upcoming content.